So today we are going to cover Microsoft PowerPoint. It's an 8-hour training session, which I'm going to cover in about half hour, 45 minutes. And so I will skip a few bits, but I'm going to cover the key important things, or certainly the things that have been requested. Let's put it that way. As always, any questions, any point, or even if it's something to do with Excel or Word, just ask, and I'll endeavour to cover it. So, hopefully on the screen you can see Microsoft PowerPoint. I think this is 2019 or 2016. It's definitely one of the recent ones. The last 2 or 3 versions have pretty much been, well, I wouldn't say identical, but very similar. Certainly everything we're going to cover today works in the same way. Older versions are slightly different, but worry about that when we come to it. The idea of PowerPoint, for anyone that's not familiar with it, is that it's for producing a slideshow, a presentation. That presentation can either then be delivered to a room full of people, or can be turned into some kind of rolling demo to sit in the reception of an office, or can be emailed to somebody to convey a message, or can even just be used as a training tool. You can do all kinds of big and clever things with PowerPoint that most people never do. But all I'm going to do today is just to show you how to create a really simple presentation, which would be the very beginning bit, and then skip right to the end of the course where I show you some of the things about delivering the presentation, because that way the little things that people don't tend to learn by accident. The great thing about PowerPoint is there is a lot in there that you can just learn through trial and error. Anyway, so here we go. Here's my brand new presentation, which consists of a slide, a master slide, a big blank title slide, in fact. I'm going to assume that you're all fairly familiar with PowerPoint, so I'm not going to talk through the screen in detail because otherwise we won't get anywhere. But here I've got what's known as a normal view. So there's a blank slide there, and there's a big version of the blank slide in the main part of the screen. And what a lot of people do when they start doing a presentation is they'll put in the title, and then they'll create another new slide, and then they'll start making that slide perfect and think, well, it's not quite right, align it, and maybe add some pictures. And 3 slides in, every person can spend over an hour or maybe 2 hours creating these slides, and then get to a stage where they're just tied up in knots and they spend so much time thinking about how it's going to look, they can't remember what they're even doing a presentation about. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but that's the kind of problem that people encounter. So there's a tool, a really powerful, massively overlooked, incredibly useful tool. That cat's tail is so funny. That was a really expensive fan you got there. But yeah, it's a great tool which people massively overlook in PowerPoint, and that's something called Outline View. Now, this is a great way to start a presentation. So if I go to the View tab, and then I've got the different presentation views here on the left. I can get to those by using the options down the bottom by the zoom bar instead, but I'm not interested in that. It just confuses the issue. What I'm interested in is Outline View. This is, like I say, massively overlooked. If I click on this, what it will do is very, very slightly change my presentation. On the left-hand side now, I've got a text version of my presentation, and on the right-hand side, I've still got the slide. But the reason this is brilliant is because this is the best way of starting a brand new presentation. So if I was going to have a sales meeting, I could create a sales meeting presentation pretty quickly. See how many times I can say the word presentation. Right, so I'd have sales meeting, hit return and say, right, first thing we're going to talk about is the previous meeting. Oops. Then we're going to talk about the new product. Then the sales team. Then we're going to talk about the marketing approach. And then if I hold down the Alt key and press return, Alt, Control and return, and that will go down to the subsection, and I can talk about the way that it's going to be marketed. Let's say press, web, radio. And then I can do Control return again, and then I can look at competition. Don't I misspell that? It looks silly. And then questions. So what I've done there, within a few seconds, is just rattled off a bunch of ideas. Now, if I go back to normal view, which is the way most people work, it's all about making it pretty. Here, I've got a presentation. Oh, it doesn't look very pretty, but I've got a a 9-slide, well, 7 slides presentation. And so this is one of these things. It's a great way of just getting started and getting the information on the page. It's a bit like sitting in Word and writing a massive letter and then going back to it and formatting it afterwards, rather than going into Word and then turning on underline, typing the heading, and then turning underline off. I mean, no one does it like that these days. You just type it all in and format it afterwards. And this is the best way to get a presentation built. Plus, it's a great way of looking at the structure. So now I've got a previous meeting. Then I can put the bullet points in about things that were previously discussed. So that's my number one tip for getting started. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it look pretty so that I can do stuff with it. So if I click on the design tab, in here I've got a bunch of designs. Some of them are really awful. Some are... actually, they're all really awful, to be fair. No, the thing about these design views is you can create your own custom ones. Actually, no, that'll do. That's a nice, accidentally almost pretty one. But you click on it, it puts the template for the whole presentation in there. Now, if you've got your own company template, then you'd normally have it there under custom, sort of there somewhere. If you have a company template but you don't have it saved in custom, you can just open a presentation that you regularly work on. First of all, I'm going to apply this template, then that's done. So I now have a presentation template, yay. If I wanted this theme to be available to me from that list, if this was my company theme, then I could click on that drop down and I could just save current theme. And that would be like a template for presentations. Although templates and themes are something different, but we're not going to go into that right now. And then it would just appear up here under custom. And so that's a great way of just getting all the right colours, font sizes, font shapes, and all that kind of stuff in place without you having to actually do everything every time. And so, like I say, if you haven't got one, just open up an old presentation and then click on Save and give it a meaningful name, and it'll be there for next time. So, the point was to get a presentation that I can now do stuff with. And I've got a presentation there now, which I can do stuff with. I can click on marketing and add more details in there, or petition and put pictures of the other people's product, or list the questions and answers, but I'm not going to do any of the content because that'll take far too much time. Instead, I'm going to skip straight to the Slideshow tab. And then before that, I'm going to go to the View tab and click it into Slide Sorter View. Then I'm going to go to Slideshow tab. Right. Now, the idea of Slide Sorter View is it's a great place to take your almost complete presentation and fine-tune it. Now, depending how many slides you've got, this will display bigger or smaller slides because you can just zoom it in so you get loads of zoom it out so you get all your presentation on there in one go. It displays certain bits of information below each slide. At the moment, there's nothing to display, so it's just saying the slide number. But it's a great place to tinker with things. So, for example, if I wanted to talk about the marketing approach again at the end of the meeting, I can click on marketing and then I can just go copy and say, right, after questions, right there, I'm going to talk about marketing again, and then I do right mouse click and paste. And then I've got another marketing slide. And if I then think to myself, hang on a minute, that's silly, I can just click on that small delete key and delete it. If I've got more than one presentation that have a similar content, or if I've got an old presentation I want to bring things over in, this is a great way of shuffling slides between presentations. I can open up the other presentation in Slide Sorter View, click on the slide and just drag it in. Didn't mean to double click. Just excitement. Let me put it back. Yeah, I can just bring a slide and just drag it in from another presentation. But I'm not going to do that right now either because that confuses you as well. So, Slide Sorter View is good for just fine-tuning it all at the end. And there's a few other things. One is if you have two versions of a presentation. So, for example, you might have one that's a quick presentation that takes 45 minutes, and you might have a more detailed version of it that takes 2 hours. If you've got that, but you don't want to maintain 2 separate documents, what you can do is you can create a custom slideshow. And in here, we can click on Custom Slideshow, and then under it, it lists all of the custom slideshows, of which I have none, because I've just created it. So if I click there for Custom Slideshow, Custom Show, then I can say new, I can give it a meaningful name. I'll call it the short version. And then I can choose all the slides that I want in this version. So I can say, I just want it to be sales meeting, new product, and questions. And then if I click on add, I've now got a shortened version of this presentation. And I can say OK to that. And there's the short version. I can close that. But the idea is if I come on site and I now want to do my 45-minute version of the presentation, rather than having to have a second document, I can just go custom slideshow and then do short version, and it will run the short version. Or I could have long version, or I could have different language versions, depending on what I wanted to do. So that's one of the things. Another really useful thing is hiding slides. Now, if I had a slide that let's say this blank one, for example, I should have put something on. I thought, well, I don't know whether I want to have a blank one before questions or whether that would just look daft. What I can do is rather than delete it, I can hide it. And I can either hide it by clicking on this dirty great big button here, like so, which is now hidden it, or I could right mouse click and select hide. Doesn't matter which way, it does exactly the same thing. Like so. The idea being that if you've got a presentation and you think, oh, this is far too much waffle, and that's my area of expertise, and you think, you know, I'm not going to need all of these things, then rather than just deleting them and losing them forever, you can hide them. And the reason that's handy is because if halfway through the presentation it all starts going a bit quick, which can happen, then you can bring those hidden slides back. So I've hidden a slide, I've shuffled stuff around, decided that my presentation is all ready to go. And now what I'm going to do is run my presentation. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go on the webinar, but I think I've said it correctly. We'll soon find out. Yeah, it looks like some sharing. Does that say sales meeting? Yeah, good. Okay, that's quite a shocker. I could have practiced beforehand, but where would the fun be in that? Okay, so now if I want to progress through my presentation, there's a whole load of things to know about when you're doing the presentation. Firstly, how to move forward. You can press the space bar. That'll take you forward. You can press the mouse key. That'll take you forward. You can press N for next slide. You can press the down arrow. You can press the right arrow. You can even press page down. You might think, why is there all these options? It's purely because different people have different setups. So you might go somewhere where they've got a little presenter tool and the button on it does the same thing as a mouse. Another one, the button might do the same thing as a page down key, etc., etc. You might be in a situation where there's just a keyboard and you're standing on a podium, and then it's easier to reach down and just hit the space bar on it. But you can do exactly the opposite of all these things. You can say P for previous, up for the previous one, left to the previous one, page up. And this is an exciting thing, which everybody loves, and by that I mean I was interested in. If you hold down both mouse buttons at the same time for 2 seconds, it takes you to the first slide. That's the only application I've ever known that uses both mouse buttons at the same time. That to me is a world of excitement. Anyway, I've been in lockdown too long. So going through the presentation, there are other things we can do. We can right mouse click and bring up the shortcut menu. There's not a lot of things on there that are really interesting, next, previous, last view, blah, blah, blah. But there is a screen. Now in here, there's 2 things you can do which help out on the presentation. That's black the screen and white the screen. Now I can do that by pressing B and W anyway, but if they've got a wonderful animation and things jumping about and it's all very distracting, you're trying to convey a point to people and they're all just like looking at the puppies or whatever and not paying attention, you can just press B and the screen will go blank, and then they've kind of got to listen because there's nothing else to do. If you press B again, it goes back to normal. If people look like they're nodding off and you've got a really bright projector, you can press W and it'll go white. And that really does wake people up. That's a great one for burning out the eyeballs. And again, pressing W will just put it back. But you can do it from the menu. It's a bit long-winded. So like I say, most of the things on here are very interesting, but the exciting one is pointer options. You can have a laser pointer here. It's not that exciting. You can have a highlighter, which isn't that great, but the pen is fun. With the pen, you can say, we're going to talk about the previous meeting, and we're going to talk about how arrows can be used to point in directions and make smiley faces and all that sort of stuff. And never mind. Anyway, so moving through the presentation, we get to a stage where, what was it, questions? Yeah, right. Get to the bit where it says competition, and then I know the next thing is going to be questions. I think, there was that hidden slide. I could really do with bringing that up now, the one that's blank. If you know the next slide is hidden, you can just press the letter H, and that will show the next hidden slide. If there isn't another hidden slide, it won't show it. If the one isn't hidden, it won't do it. But it's just so that if you think, hidden slide, you can press H. It's a bit niche, but if you're in presenter mode, which I can't demonstrate in this setup, then one screen will show the presentation, the other screen will show presenter mode, which has got all of these controls in a much more logical manner, and you can see which slides are coming. Anyway, so that's hidden slides, and then you just press spacebar and go through it, and it's done. Again, the important question at the end is, do you want to keep your stupid picture? No, I don't. In other words, if you draw something really cool on there, you can keep it. And then you realise how difficult it is to delete a drawing because you've got to delete it one line at a time on the other screen. Anyway, so that's doing a standard presentation. Now, I'm now consulting my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I haven't. Good. Right. It's funny enough, well, in my mind, this is going quicker than I expected. And the next bit is all about how to deal with presentations so they don't go quicker than expected. There's a wonderful thing in here called Rehearse Timings. The biggest problem people have that don't do presentations on a regular basis and aren't used to standing up in front of a whole lot of people is they'll create what they think is a fantastic presentation. They will sort of practice it in their mind and they think, like, this is great, this is going to easily fill the half hour, probably fill an hour or two. And then you get up in front of the stage and then whip through it in about 5 minutes and feel all awkward and embarrassed and don't know what to do next. But I've got no answers for that one, except I can help you work out how long it's genuinely going to take. And we do that by pressing Rehearse Timings. And then when you've got a presentation like this, and you think, this is going to last 4 hours easily. You stand in a darkened room all on your own and deliver the presentation the way you intend to. So you press Rehearse Timings and you go, blah, 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 sales meeting, blah, 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 and explain everything and explain more and explain it and go through it all. And then finally you get to the end and it says, actually, that 4-hour presentation is going to take 9 seconds. And then that's the stage when you decide to add more slides in. It also asks an important and in some ways permanent question at the end of this: do you want to keep these timings? If I say yes to that, it will keep the timings, and the only way I can erase them is replacing them with other timings, which is a massive oversight in my opinion. But I'm sure one day there'll be a button to erase timings. But like I say, if I say no to it, it'll just ignore it. If I say yes, which I'm going to do, it'll keep those timings. And the reason that that's handy is because if you're creating a rolling demo for a reception or for like the Underground, they have these great big TV screens in London Underground and in airports, and they're all just running PowerPoint presentations. Obviously, they're a lot higher grade than this one is, but they're set on a loop. And they'll have timings set. And then what happens is when you've got rehearsed timings like that, it will show the first slide, and then the next one, and then depending how much money they paid for the advert, it will show longer or shorter. And that's another use for rehearsed timings. So it's quite a useful tool for practicing how long your presentation is going to last, but it's also a good one for creating a rolling demo. Or if you're feeling really confident, you can do a presentation where you go, and now we're going to talk about previous meeting, the new product, the sales team, and you've got to be really good to do that. You've got to know what you're doing, which clearly I don't. So that's timings. There's a little bit more on that. There's a section here, which is set up slideshow. If I click on that, it brings up a few settings. One of them is to manually advance slides. So if you've put timings in there and you don't want them in there anymore, and you think, how can I delete these things? You can't. All you can do is set it to manual, and then it'll ignore them. I mean, there might be some way of deleting them that I just haven't learned in this version, but you know, I'd love to know if there was. But or I could bother googling, I suppose. But anyway, so you can make it manual, or if you're doing this as a presentation that's going to run in a reception, then you just tick the loop box, and then if I say OK to that, when I now run the presentation, I'll have my sales meeting on a loop, like so. It'll keep going round, and then after 6 seconds, you'll know that I'm telling the truth because we will see sales meeting again on a loop. Anyway, and then when I hit escape, it stops. Now, there's lots of things like slideshow animation where you can make text fly in from the side, and you can make graphics sort of animate their way in and have awful sound effects like cash registers or machine guns, all sorts of things that look and sound really dreadful to everyone else that's watching the presentation. But they are entertaining when you're doing it. You can have things like that, which I don't intend to do today. You can have slideshow transitions, and done properly, you can have a nice transitional effect from one slide to another rather than it just being this cold, stark movement of one type to another. And again, if it's done properly, it can look nice, but if you just use every single transition type that's in there, it won't look dynamic, it'll just look awful. But you can do all sorts of things like that. But one of the things that you can also do, which if you want to be really big and clever, or if you want to create something that will run while you're not there, or if you're just really, really nervous and you've got to stand up in front of lots of people, is you can use something called narration. Looking for the button, it's right there somewhere. Slideshow, narration. Oh, record slideshow. Okay, that's what it meant. Anyway, used to say narration, never mind. The idea of this is that I had D&D on my phone, I didn't. No one's phoned in the last 2 minutes. The idea of this is you can record the timings, but you can also record yourself speaking. So if you really want to do something bold, dynamic, you can have a conversation with yourself on stage, which would be a bit odd. Or you can send it out to someone who can just play it and they can have your voice explaining what the slides mean. Or if you're really nervous, you can just stand there like this and pretend you're talking when it's actually coming out of a speaker. But this is how it works. You click on record slideshow. It comes up basically saying, you ready? And you say, yeah. And then you click on start recording. And you say, oh, no, I did that wrong. I started from the middle of the presentation. Right, cancel, escape, ruined it. So it does ask on that screen, do you want to start from the current slide, which of course I just completely ignored. I'm now going to say start recording. Today we are going to talk about sales stuff. And it goes like that. But first, the previous meeting. And then you record your narration throughout, blah, 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 blah. And that's it. Except it didn't work because I've got it going on a loop. And then that works for the presentation. Right, let me start that again. First thing I do is turn off the loop recording. Right. Then I'm going to select that. Then I'm going to record the slideshow. So at this point, you can just talk to it normally, and in theory, it should record it. It very much depends whether or not this gets moved because my microphone's already being used for the webinar. So now, at this point, you can just talk to it normally, and in theory, it should very much this gets my microphone. Yeah, you can see slick cut, but yeah, so that's one of the things you can do, and obviously with a bit of preparation, it'd be a heck of a lot better than what I've just done there. And so that is the most exciting elements of PowerPoint. Does anybody have any questions about any of it? No, not at all. Does anybody use PowerPoint or intend to?
I have done before.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, you can do other things to make it look more interesting, but like I say, it really very much depends on how you use it. I now have to put some transitional effects on there just to make it interesting. So I'm going to choose some random ones. Oh, now that's a good one, box. If you ever want to make it look a little bit more dynamic, go from one slide to another, on the transitions tab, there's all these different types of transition. And some of them look quite good. Yeah, I just do a checkerboard, that'll do. And it does things like this, which is like wildly entertaining. Let's do some others. That'll do. So now I want to run this presentation, but I don't want to have the recording on it. I can clear timings now. Excellent. Wonder what that drop-down menu does. So this is an example of slide transitions. Like I say, it's an exciting world of animated stuff like this. Good. Okay. So that's PowerPoint then. Anyone got any questions? Anybody got any questions about Excel, Word, anything? Okay, right. In that case, then we'll leave PowerPoint there. As far as the next one is concerned, do you have any requests for the future presentations? And does anybody want to do this tomorrow, or should we leave it till Tuesday? Oh, let me switch on that microphone. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you do something on track changes in Word?
Yes, I can. And that takes about half an hour, so that would be a perfect slot to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How about Tuesday? Tuesday morning?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually quite useful. Yeah, track changes.
We also do, you know, sort of when you're doing a document and then you've got lots of different headers and you can do like the page numbers, but it links it to them.
Yeah, styles.
Yeah, because I've done it before, but I can't remember how you do it. I've been trying to do it, so that'd be good.
Good. I'll give you. Let me just give you a preview on that right now, because I just think it's such a useful function. And then anyone that's thinking not interested will hopefully think, oh, I'm mildly interested. So let me just get everything in the right place on the screen, which is always slightly entertaining. Right, so a blank document. Okay, yeah, change share content. So this should switch to Word and switch off of PowerPoint. Hey. Okay, so hopefully you've just got Word on the screen now. Yeah. Right. Now, let's just create a nice big document. So if I had a document that was something like this, and I wanted to know where the different sections appeared within my hundreds of pages of my document, and then I could use this particular thing. So here we have my headings and my paragraphs. And now what I'm going to do is make these style type 1. Now, we briefly talked about this style section the other day, but what I'll do is I'll go to this in depth properly, but this is just to give you an idea. So if I say, right, that's the heading, and that's a heading, and that's a heading. Now, what I'm going to do at the beginning of my document, I'm going to insert a table of contents. And to do that, I need to go to the Insert tab and then find a table of contents. It's not going to be on there. I bet it's going to be on references instead. Of course it's going to be references.
On the left.
It's the one that says table of contents. And I'm not even going to bother configuring. I'm just going to hit it and see what happens. Oh, okay. The first one, to see what happens. So good, there we go. Right, that was supposed to be on page 1. That's pretty much ruined the whole point of my page 1. But right, let's get this tidied up a bit. So there we go. That's an example of a table of contents. We can now see those 3 different things appear on these particular pages. And if I scroll down through my document and then say, actually, that's going to be on page 3 now, then if I scroll back up to my table of contents and then go to this bit and press refresh or update table, just get on with it. There you go. Now it says where the page numbers lie. Easy, huh? But I'll go through that properly next week. So Tuesday we'll do track changes.
Oh, sorry.
And then either Tuesday or Wednesday we'll do styles and talk. Yeah, we'll probably do it on Tuesday as well, depending how well track changes goes. That's it's going to be entertaining. Good. Okay. Any other requests or questions? Just tumbleweeds. Right. Okay. So, did anyone want to do this tomorrow, or should we just revert to eating chocolate? Yeah, that's fair enough. Good. Okay.
Tomorrow.
That sounds ideal then. Is that someone's stomach? A motorbike going past.
I think so.
It wasn't me. It's not coming out of my speakers or microphone. Okay, good. Right. In that case, I'm going to leave you in peace to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for attending. If you think of anything, just email me, and I shall see you on Tuesday, hopefully. Have a great weekend.
Have a good Easter.
Happy Easter.
Thank you.
Bye.